Welcome back to episode 34 of the Dear Young Men podcast. In today's episode, it's titled The Devil is the Prince of This World on Dear Young Men. The Dear Young Men podcast is a weekly podcast that posts Tuesday at 8 a.m. Eastern Standard Time, where we talk to the 20-year-old version of myself and all the young men out there that need guidance. So this past Wednesday, as everybody knows, Charlie Kirk, a husband, father, and Christian, was assassinated. I'm not going to talk about his politics. I don't really care about that. I don't think Jesus really cares what your politics are, frankly. I think he just cares that you believe in him. But for some reason, I didn't really watch him. I mean, I knew of him, but it struck me really deeply as I feel like I saw myself in him. He's obviously a big Christian, which I claim to be as well. I feel like I'm not, I'm never close enough to God and Jesus as I should be, but I do my best. He was only 2 years older than me. He was 31 when he died. He's a father of two. He had a beautiful family, and most importantly, he had professed his faith quite openly for Jesus Christ. And, for some reason, I haven't fully recovered from this news this past week. I'm not like really a big news guy. I don't really follow the news that much. I used to a long time ago, and I just have no real interest in it very much anymore. I don't feel like it provides me anything positive. I never walk away going, oh man, I'm really glad I spent some time paying attention to the news this week. But for some reason, I find myself, since I found out on Wednesday that it happened, every time I look at my kids, I get so sad. And I am a joyful person. I really am. Like I pride myself on being a joyful person. That's one quality that I know that I can control, that I am proud of how I act. I'm a joyful person. But it's just every time I see my kids after this, I get so sad. And it's just a constant reminder that life is so precious. And he was just a man. He was obviously, whatever you think about his politics, but at the end of the day, he was a father. His kids are going to miss him like crazy. His wife's going to miss him like crazy. And it's a reminder to live in joy and with joy every single day, because that's what we're called to do. There's a couple Bible verses I want to talk about today. Psalm 11. In the Lord I take refuge. How then can you say to me, flee like a bird to your mountain? For look, the wicked bend their bows and set their arrows against the strings to shoot from the shadows at the upright in heart. When the foundations are being destroyed, what can the righteous do? Jesus says, he makes it clear that in this world you will have trouble. And it's, it's easy to say that and be like, yeah, he says it's going to be hard. And sometimes life gets hard, but life's hard for everybody. But then all 12 apostles were murdered because of their belief in Jesus. And they never failed in their belief in him. And so I said we're called to be joyful. Like we're called to live in joy. And I've had a hard time explaining this to other people as to why I feel like I'm always in a good mood. I'm always in a good mood. I'm always smiling. I'm always happy. I'm always in a good mood. I'm always looking at things positively. You can ask anybody I am with that I'm always in a good mood. And people I work with, they're always talking about how if I'm ever a little quiet or seem a little upset for a second, they're like, it's shocking because you're always in a good mood constantly. And every time I talk to you, you're in a good mood. And how can I be joyful in a world so evil? Everybody complains about everything. This is penalizing. This is unfair. This is that. And there is evil everywhere. Satan is the prince of this world. That is the title of this podcast. And you cannot forget that. That is an important thing to remember. Because this world is corrupt and it's evil. But we're called to joy, because to love and to be loved by Christ is the fulfillment of joy. Most people look at obedience to God's will as not having the freedom of choice and not having autonomy to make their own decisions. But I it's different. I totally disagree because you're not a slave to God. If you live in God's will and what he wants for you, then you will feel joy and you will live a better life objectively. You might not have more money, you might not have more materialist things. You will live a better life if you live in God's through God's will. That idea of freedom of choice. We all know these people, and you might be one of these people. You're a slave to sin. You're not a slave to God. You're a slave to sin. And you think that you are being smart by, it's like the people who drink themselves to death or smoke cigarettes and kill themselves doing that. It's like you think it's fun until it kills you. And then it's like, well, maybe it wasn't worth it. And it's the same thing with any sin. I don't know, this idea of the freedom of choice and being able to make your own decisions. We're allowed to follow his will, and we're allowed to not follow his will, and therefore not living in joy. There's a verse from John 15. As the Father has loved me, so have I loved you. Now remain in my love. If you keep my commands, you will remain in my love, just as I have kept my Father's commands and remained in his love. I have told you this so that my joy may be in you and that your joy may be complete. My command is this: love each other as I have loved you. Greater love has no one than this, to lay down one's life for one's friends. You are my friends if you do what I command. I no longer call you servants, because a servant does not know his master's business. Instead, I have called you friends, for everything that I have learned from my Father I have made known to you. You did not choose me, but I chose you and appointed you so that you might go and bear fruit, fruit that will last. And so whatever you ask in my name, the Father will give you. This is my command: love each other. I was talking to my wife about Charlie Kirk, and it's sad, and I don't want that to get misconstrued. That it is very sad for the kids to lose their father, but the number of people he brought closer to Jesus, as crazy as it seems, it's like that's the risk. That's the risk of doing that. That's the risk of doing this. That's the risk of proudly professing your faith in Jesus Christ, that people will hate you for it, and they really will. A real Christian won't hate you for not being a Christian. They just want you to become a Christian. That's what a real Christian would do. They're not called to hate you. They're called to love you and to live in joy and to show that joy through their love. And the world will hate you, though, if you profess your love for Jesus Christ. And it depends on your faith. Like if you believe in him, then Charlie Kirk's death is very sad. But that might be the outcome sometimes. And Jesus says it. He said it. And it's sad. It's very sad for a kid to lose his parent. But unfortunately, that's the game. The devil is the prince of this world, not the prince of the next one. And unfortunately, this world is fleeting much faster than you can imagine. And it seems to go faster and faster by the day. So why am I so joyful in an evil and corrupt world? And I could give reasons like I got an amazing wife, I got amazing kids, I have a good job, I feel like I've been blessed with the ability to complete tasks well. Like I have a skill set that I can be paid a decent amount of money for. But all that stuff is fleeting. Like, my wife's gonna get ugly one day. I'm gonna get ugly one day. My kids are gonna grow up, and they're gonna have their own lives, and they're not just gonna be that 3.5-year-old daughter who just wants to show you her dress. It's just like, I think that's what I'm saddest about for Charlie, is that his kids, like, he knew the risks in what he was doing, but his kids, they didn't take on that burden. But my joy is not my own. It belongs to Christ, as his unfailing love for me has given me life and in turn given me joy. And I know how it ends. I read the book. I read the last chapter. I skipped ahead. I know how it ends. If he can conquer death, I can conquer my sins. And you can do anything through Christ. You might not believe it, but you can. So, okay. I didn't think I would cry, but I did. It's fine. I knew I would cry, frankly. Last week, I had an idea to make sort of this weekly checklist things. We're going to change topics a little bit, try to get off this sad, depressing part of it and get into something maybe a little less sad. So last week, I had this idea to make this weekly checklist of things to do, and it did well. We were celebrating my mom's 60th birthday. She's very old, so you can leave her a comment. Tell her how old she is. Sorry, Mom, if you're listening, you're very old. I love you, though. You're very old. You're twice as old as me. You're 20 times older than my oldest kid. 30 times than my youngest. Anyways, so I had this idea to basically, like, every day have these things I need to do. And I was accomplishing a lot more tasks every single day than I had been accomplishing. I didn't quite do all of them, but I was doing a lot more than what I had been doing. And it started me thinking on, like, this idea of, like, what can you do and why do you accomplish things the way you accomplish them? Because there will be periods in my life where I will not do anything for a month. And I look at that month and I'm like, I didn't accomplish a single thing. I lived for a month. I mean, maybe I hung out with my kids and that's fun, but I'm saying like outside of the stuff I'm supposed to do, like show up to work, do an adequate enough job, be an adequate enough father, be an adequate enough husband. I didn't do anything. Like I wasn't a great husband. I wasn't a great father. I wasn't good at my job. I didn't make this podcast. I didn't do the things I know I'm capable of doing. And so I started thinking about it and this idea of sin causing more sin. I think I've talked about this before in some other episodes, but this idea to me is that the more you sin, the more you sin. So it's not like allowing yourself to sin a little bit, because once you sin a little bit, you're going to want to sin more. It's recently, a couple months ago, I gave up sugar and I told people, and I gave up Diet Coke too, and it's just sort of the same idea of, I know that once I open the door to eat something that's sugar or to drink something with sugar, I'm done. I'll lose. And frankly, that's kind of been the case. I haven't been perfect with the sugar. I just had some sugar this last weekend, and it's amazing how sin leads to more sin. I hadn't had sugar for 4 months in a row, and then maybe a month ago or so, I had some sugar, and then I had some more, and then I had some more, and then I went 2 weeks without having it, then I had some more, and then I went 1 week without having it, then some more, and it's like sin just leads to more sin. But I think that idea can also work in the opposite. It's more of an idea of momentum. So as opposed to sinning leading to more sin, it's like, I was thinking like, man, I've accomplished more this week than I've accomplished in 5 weeks in the past couple months. A couple weeks ago, when I made the first podcast, or last week when I made the podcast, I was like, I've done more this week than I've done in a very long time. And it's because wins stack wins. So the same way that sin leads to sin, winning leads to winning. And I have this idea that in everything you do it to the best of your abilities. Because if you don't, you won't know when to flip that switch, and that switch will get muddied and will get a lot harder to flip. So this idea of, a lot of people treat their job like it's a burden. And you know what? Jobs aren't that much fun. They're not that much fun. Like if I didn't have to work, I wouldn't. But we're called to work and we're going to work. You're going to have a job. So why not be the best employee at the company? I mean, why not? Like, you're going to be there anyways. You might as well work hard, because then you're going to get home and you're not going to be able to flip that switch back off when you're already the best employee there. Well, then I'm going to get home and I'm going to be the best husband here. And you know what? I'm going to be the best father here. And I'm going to be the best Christian-based Dear Young Man podcaster on the planet. And it's interesting how that mindset of doing the best at everything you do translates. So I've worked out way more since starting this podcast. And I told my wife, I'm like, the reason I want to do this podcast is because it brings me closer to Christ, and it brings me closer to the person I was made to be. I can't worry about the numbers, because it's for a lot more than that. It's for more than just getting clicks. Like, if I wanted to make a video that got 40,000 views, 50,000 views, I can do that. I have a tech channel that I talked about before, Techno Clips. If I wanted to post a video, I could get 50,000 views today. It's not a big deal. But I'm not in it for that. I want more. I want more out of my life than just views. I don't really care about that because if I did, I wouldn't be here because every video gets 25 views. And I'm like 3 of them. And I think my wife's at least 1. And I know like 5 other people. So everybody that watches this and listens are personal, deeply personal, and connected people to me. So anyways, I've just been dealing with this winning and stacking wins, and it's so interesting how like it doesn't stop. You come home, and like yesterday we got home from this vacation, and you have this decision, you have this choice where you could just continue to stay in vacation mode where you're not doing anything, or you could flip the switch and say, you know what, the day starts again, let's get back to reality. So I got home and I cleaned out our minivan, and it took me an hour or so to get it all cleaned out, get the hair out of it, vacuum, clean it up, dust it, all that stuff. But it's like you stack that win and more wins begin to stack. And it's unbelievable how many wins can stack. Today, I worked very hard today. I've been like developing a lot of these VBA, Excel, macro tools that a lot of people use at my company and that I've just created out of thin air that save everybody hours and hours every single day. And like, why? Why do that? And the reason is because I want to win. And I want to continue to stack wins. And I know I can stack wins. All I have to do is try. So I go into work and I try. And then I get off work and my wife brings my kids home from my mom's house. And, we have a great time. We hang out. We have some dinner together. Or they eat dinner. I was just hanging out with them. And then I went to go work out. Worked out, came back, hung out with them some more. And same thing, like just being a better father. Not on my phone, not doing this, not doing that. Because I've been winning all day. I'm not going to stop winning. Once you start winning, you're not going to stop. Jordan wins 6 titles in 8 years because he's not going to stop. He took 2 years off. Once you start winning, you start winning. And you realize that you can win. And I think that confidence is one of the key traits that a lot of people are missing these days, is that belief in themselves. And I think a lot of that is a lack of Christianity, because you don't really have to believe in yourself if you believe in Jesus, because you know that he believes in you. I mean, he just said, he as the Father has loved me, so have I loved you. He's not saying like, if you've done these 7 things, he's saying he loves you. Reach out your hand and he will pull you across and pull you back to him. But you have to be able to reach your hand out. And that first reaching out, trying at work, doing this, that is the hardest first step, making that first step. But once you reach your hand out to him, he will yank you towards him, and you can become a better version of yourself through him. So keep that in mind. Sinning leads to more sinning. Jesus says, if your left eye causes you to stumble, cut it out. And I think he's a little tongue in cheek there, but he's being very like, that's how bad it is to sin. Same thing with winning. It's like, if this thing is helping you win, continue to help yourself win. And that thing is normally him. So there's this other thing I've been thinking about. And it's that things actually don't take that long. Every week you do something, right? So right now in America, the NFL season started 2 weeks ago. This was week 2. And every week there are football games. And I talked to my wife about this before, this idea that, like, every week you're going to be watching these football games. Every week they're going to be on, or every Thursday there's a game, every Monday there's a game, every Sunday there's a game, whatever. And I was talking to her about this idea where it's like, what if every week you pretended like the person, one of the announcers or whatever, who's the one of the famous, Chris Collinsworth, every week you talk to him and you say, hey, Chris, I'm down 2.5 pounds. And I've been thinking about this idea of like, I'm going to do these things every week. What if at that point it's like this check-in of doing stuff? And you start thinking about that and you go, most things actually don't take that long. You think about like the difference between last Sunday and this next Sunday is nothing. But if you were to grind hard and you're trying to lose 20 pounds, you could probably lose 2.5 pounds in a week. And you do that for like 2 months, 2.5 pounds every week. You lost your 20 pounds. That's not even that long. And that's sort of what I've been thinking, is that a lot of things don't even take that long, and they just take consistency. And if you can live consistently and you can continue to stack wins, I think that you can accomplish anything in less time than you would imagine. And I've noticed that with this podcast, the more I post, the better it does. The more I post, the better it does. And the more I work out, the better I feel. The more I work out, the more I work out. And then I continue to work out more. And then it just becomes part of my life. I just work out. The more I get up early, the more I get up early. The more I get up early, the more I go to bed early because I have to get up early tomorrow. And you sort of stack these wins on top of each other. And I just think things don't take as long as you think they do. I mean, they really don't. Like, things take time to a point, but a lot of things just take consistency. And the time is whatever. I mean, in a year isn't that long. Years go by like this now. I feel like for me, it's crazy how fast time goes. And every week there's Sunday, there's that next football game, and it's coming up, and it comes up quicker than you always remember. And then it's like, had you just lived correctly for that week, where would you be at if you were to check back in with Chris Collinsworth and be like, hey, Chris, this is what I did this last week. So anyways, things just don't take that long. And so I want to end this podcast. I started this episode off by talking about how the wicked bend their bows and set their arrows and how the world hates you. And it's true. People, they don't like seeing you enjoy, and they will try their absolute hardest to yank you down with them. I know people that I work with who are just miserable, and they are the most miserable people ever, and their misery is unbearable to me. And every time it's like you can't convince them that it's not that bad. You just can't talk them out of it. You could say, well, I drive 3, you come in once a week and you drive 2 hours, and I come in 3 times a week and I have to drive a total of 3 hours. So I drive more per week and it's bad. And they'll go, yeah, but it's split up over days. It's like, it's less, I do more driving than you. So it's not worse. I do more. And no matter what, they always have something that's worse about their lives. And those people are miserable, and they can just live in their misery. And they don't like seeing you joyful. They will try to pull you down with them. That's what they do. It's like that's what people do. Is they want to pull you down to their level. And when you have joy, you elevate people around you. And while people don't love seeing you live in Christ and in his joy, when you show them that you can and that life is better on that side, they might just join you, and they might be like, maybe Scott's onto something. And Jesus, the story of Jesus is he's born in a manger, and he doesn't start his ministry till he's like 30. And his ministry isn't very long, just a couple of years. And then, he does some stuff in the meantime, heals some people, says some words, said some stuff. And then in John 16, he knows that Judas is about to turn him over, and he's about to get beaten, spit on, and crucified. And he says the following. He says, "Do you now believe?" Jesus replies, "A time is coming, and in fact has come, when you will be scattered, each to your own home. You will leave me all alone, yet I am not alone, for my Father is with me. I have told you these things so that in me you may have peace. In this world you will have trouble, but take heart. I have overcome the world." You're not alone. Jesus wasn't alone. God was there, and you may have peace now because in this world you will have trouble, but Jesus Christ has overcome the world. And live in the joy, live in love, and know that tomorrow could be your last day, so why be miserable? You know how it ends. Just skip ahead to Revelations and read how it ends. All right. I'll see you guys next one. This has been Scott with Dear Men Podcast. Peace out. Have a good week.